Aloha, and welcome back to another episode of Pau Hana Referee. This week during match week 10, I reviewed Bournemouth vs. Man City, refereed by Michael Oliver, and I also reviewed Man United versus Chelsea, refereed by Robert Jones. I felt like the referees did a good job during these games, and I will start by reviewing the Bournemouth versus Man City game first, and then go into the Man United and versus Chelsea game next. Alright, so for the Bournemouth versus Man City game, I felt like this wasn't too much of a game. It was pretty not a standard game, I felt, for Man City. They didn't hold possession that well during this game, which adds to some of the comments I have of the refereeing by Michael Oliver. And there wasn't much. The ARs did their job correctly. Don't feel like there's anything that was too drastic there. I didn't see anything with VAR really coming in play. I think there might have been one check or so, but it was pretty quick and easy, and nothing too noteworthy of. During the first half, there was a pretty early yellow card. Sorry, not red card. And I think this yellow card, if I'm remembering right, was within the first 6 minutes of the game. And I actually kind of liked that. And it was a yellow card offense. It was coming up through the back of the player in a aerial challenge. And so it was definitely yellow card worthy. I did like the quickness and kind of just being because sometimes you might see a ref kind of not give the yellow card in that scenario, and when that happens, we get this sense of okay, or the players get a sense of okay, I can get away with stuff like that, and that's kind of what you don't want to happen. So having that early yellow card was really nice to have. And it kind of sets that tone during the game. Kind of like, look, I will warn you for your offenses. I have control of this game. And nothing wrong with having control of the game as a referee. I talk about being invisible as a referee. And what I mean in that is that you're not putting a presence on the game. And so even just putting a yellow card or making these calls early on isn't putting too much of a presence on the game. It's just saying, hey, look, I am here. I'm watching what you're doing. Keep it in the rules and the laws of the game, and everything will be good. Some other stuff during the first half, I felt there was good positioning, and I'll dive into that a bit later. And yeah, I mean, there's the different flow, so it was nice. He wasn't flat-footed really during the first half. He was moving around, checking his shoulder, anticipating play, and there was a lot of counterattacks by Bournemouth, which resulted in an early goal from Bournemouth. And so with that different flow of the game, it did have different reffing style, I felt, in some way, compared to watching other Man City games so far, since I've been doing these reviews. Again, wasn't much during the first half. There was that yellow card. There was the positioning and kind of just the flow of the game. And so I'm going to bring, hopefully you can see this well. I'm bringing in a whiteboard here. And so I kind of want to just talk about positioning and what I mean, because I've talked about this for a bit. And so I'm going to draw quick, hopefully you can see this. So this is my quick little diagram of a 18-yard box 6. And so then this is the corner. So if we have a corner kick on this side, and the ball coming in this way. So the ball is coming in that way. Man, this is not the best. Where you want the referee's position to be, and I'll denote the referee with a different color. So I have a red marker here for the referee. And so where you have probably, let's say this is the side that your assistant referee is on. So my assistant referee will be over here, they'll be basically further back, they'll be more over here, but they'll be over in this area. And so then what you want the ball in between, and you're going to have, let's get a different color actually, perfect. You're going to have players, so you got your goalkeeper. Oh, what the heck. Okay, that color doesn't work. Alright, so you got your goalkeeper, you got your players all in the box. You probably have another player that is near this goalkeeper, so you probably have another player there. So that's probably like the defense, we'll say, in the yellow. And we got one. And then your person taking the corner. Hopefully you can see that. If you cannot, sorry. But we got blue is our defending team. Black is our attacking team. The ball is green. Red is my referee, or my assistant referee. And so what you want to do in this scenario as the referee is you kind of want to be in this line. You want the ball to be in between you and your assistant. And so you'll see a lot, this is pretty deep into the box, so a lot of times players will be over here more so. But where the referee wants to be is either here or kind of like here. So they want to be, and I'll make this more of like a, and so they want to be in that range right there, standing. And I felt Michael Oliver did a good job. He was in this range, kind of moving in the range, especially when that ball gets kicked. And in this range, you can see, so like if I'm placing my referee, this is just an example, but right here, if I'm looking down this line from this here, you can see in between those players, and you can see what's happening, the joustings of the hands, the little shoving and everything. So you're watching that foul, and you don't need to be watching too much of the ball. You know that ball's going to be kicked forward, so, or through towards the goal. And so that's kind of like what I mean by good positioning. Now if I do a quick erasing of this, let me just build this real quick again. And you'll see one thing that's kind of super odd. So we got another side. And so this time we're going to have the ball being kicked from the side away from your assistant referee. And we can't really see him over there, so I'll make him a little better. So you got your assistant referee over there. So you got the ball coming from this side now. And so what takes place, let me draw my defense in here. Sure. And then we'll draw my attackers. Sure. All right. So this is kind of small. And not the best diagram, but what I'm wanting to show you is in this scenario, dang it, I messed up. Let me just fix this diagram real quick. And so what I want to talk about here is in this scenario with the ball on this other side and your AR on this side, you're actually weirdly going to be positioned in a very similar area. And that is because I don't need to see this ball being kicked. There's no offsides during corner kicks, so I don't need to see this ball being kicked. Now I can see it in my peripheral vision standing over here. Maybe I'll take more of a step back away from the 18-yard box. But again, from this position, once that ball gets kicked in there, that ball ends up being in between my AR on this side and me over here. So that's what good positioning, and you can see in between. Now this is a lot tighter, so kind of changing where your angle is to find along this kind of area. But that's kind of how this works. And I think Michael Oliver did a good job during the first half like that. And I'm hoping to get something to make some better diagrams for y'all. But this is kind of what I'm talking about here with good positioning and what I mean during corner kicks. And that's normally when I'm talking about good positioning. Also, good positioning is distance away from the ball, being 20 to 10 to 20 yards off the ball, which sometimes that 10 yards can be a little too close, which is totally fine, especially when you get to those close areas. But having that positioning for the ball to usually be in between you and your assistant referee, and then having that angle to see kind of in between the players and see what's going on between their body movements on the field. And so that's what I mean with the good positioning during the first half. Now I'm going to move on to our second half. And during the second half, I actually noticed this during the second half. I didn't really notice it during the first half, but I really liked it. And I wanted to point it out because I liked what he was doing. And it was just a simple one. Now, not every foul needs to have gestures showing what happened, but he blew his whistle, he called the foul, and he kind of just gave a quick tug on his own referee jersey, mentioning, no, you were tugging his jersey, and that is why I'm calling the foul. And I really like that, just because sometimes even you just saying, oh, you're pulling on their jerseys, all that stuff, that gesture is showing to the entire crowd on the television broadcast, and showing that this is why I called the foul. And then most people are kind of like, oh, okay, he did see what was going on, or he knows what he's calling here. And sometimes they still disagree with you, but for the most part, it can help you out with that. And I think maybe I saw some other gestures of tripping and stuff, but that was the one big one that I was like, boom, hit that light bulb in my head, kind of like, oh, I like that. That was a good job, Michael Oliver, who can sometimes get some controversy in other things. Yeah, and then the second half, some stuff I didn't like seeing. It got a little slower, but still the ball was moving, and 80 minutes, you're tired, I understand, but he started walking around more, being a little more flat-footed, and there was maybe one or two that I felt like because of it, the play got a little far away from him to make a call or to have the best position for it. And so I didn't really like seeing that, especially that all of these are professional referees and they have extensive training and physical tests that they have to pass. So I know he's physically fit enough to be reffing to the past 90 minutes and to not be walking around the whole time. And so to see him walking around was a little bit like, oh, come on. I know you can do a little bit better there. But understandable, it does get tiring. And maybe he knew he was on a Man City game and he didn't think he was going to have to be running around as much as he did, especially with the amount of counterattacks and the different style of play that was being played during this game, which Bournemouth attacked Man City well and put them not in a comfortable position and, kind of changed that flow of the game. So that was one thing that I didn't really like seeing. And then there wasn't really much else during the second half. Again, this game was pretty bland. I mean, we got 2 goals for Bournemouth and a goal for Man City. Nothing crazy with those goals. It was pretty counterattacking, and nothing crazy on offsides, anything like that. But yeah, pretty boring game. Just some things I had noticed during the game. So yeah. Alright, so now moving on to our Man United versus Chelsea game, refereed by Robert Jones. ARs were Lee Betts and Neil Davies. Fourth official was Tom Bramall, and our VAR was Michael Salisbury. Assistant VAR was Nick Hopton. And I think Robert Jones did a good job during this game. There's maybe one or two things that was questionable. I have some notes on the ARs. Normally you don't see them in the TV broadcast and can see what's taking place unless they call a foul or something like that. But there was some stuff I saw that I really liked, and maybe I'll try to make a little diagram about it. And then during our first half, or moving on to now talking about our first half, in the first minute was the first foul. I thought this was a good call. I really like it. Again, kind of what I was talking about during the Man City game. That one was a yellow card, but this one's just a foul. It wasn't a yellow card offense, but it was good. Kind of putting your presence, saying, this is what I'm calling as fouls. This is what's not being called as fouls. Kind of getting those players set in stone and kind of taking... I don't like saying the word taking control of the game, but you are kind of taking control of the game. You're not taking control and putting it in your own hands, but you're taking control and saying, don't go over these lines or else it'll be a foul. If it's repeatedly happening, then a yellow card will come out, and so on. I think one thing you don't see too much, and sometimes, the flow and the play of the game doesn't actually let you do this that well, but during the 22nd minute, there was an advantage call. It was a good call, and I think throughout the game I noticed he was using his advantage, and if you don't know what advantage means, it is where the referee acknowledges that there was a foul there, but believes that the play is beneficial for the team that has been fouled, not the team that has committed the foul, and they still have possession of the ball, and there's a good chance a good outcome will come from this. Hence, there does not need to be a whistle blown for that foul. And, sometimes you don't call that advantage and as a referee, and then it's close, and then the ball goes in, and you're like, oh man, I just took a goal off the board for a team because I blew my whistle. I didn't call advantage. And then sometimes you call that advantage, or you feel like the offense was so severe that's why you didn't call the advantage. And sometimes you call that advantage, that goal gets put in, and then you kind of give a pat on your back because you're like, oh, I did, I could have stopped it there and called that foul. But then what's the likelihood of them getting the goal from that compared to what was taking place at the flow of the game during that time? So, using your advantage really well is really important, and also understanding how to use your advantage, what you can do. There's not much, it's just calling advantage. Either pointing two hands, which is the old style. You can now point one hand, and usually you'll yell advantage for at least the players to know. It's probably not going to be loud enough for the fans, but hopefully the fans understand the gesture of your hands. And yeah, he was in a good position for the advantage call, and some other calls that he made. Yeah, then I got, I think one of them took place a little later on, but I put AR2. I think it was the second assistant referee, which if you don't know, when I say AR1 and AR2, they're both assistant referees. Just one, assistant referee 1 means that you're on the, in a stadium it doesn't matter, but like when you're in like youth leagues or whatever, it means you're on the players and coaches side, which is the same thing for in the stadiums. But then the assistant referee 2 is like the fan side, which is not true in a stadium, but is you could just say on the opposite side of the technical area. which is where the players, the coaches, and the fourth official is at. Um, and so a comment I had on them was I liked their running of the line. And when the ball got closer to them, so if I'm on the line right now, I'm on the line, and you kind of want to stay on that line. But when that ball gets closer to you, you kind of want to take like a good 2 steps back. And I thought they did really well at this and making sure they had the ball, the line, the whole field in their vision during that. And yeah, kind of off the line and not like making it harder for themselves. They position themselves in good positions to make calls easier for themselves. So I was really happy to see that, and especially that you don't really see it too much on television copies of games. Yeah, then in the 36th minute, I thought it was a good free kick call, and it was right outside the box. And I think why I noted this was it was clearly a free kick or clearly a foul. I'm noting it because I thought it was a really good call because sometimes you could get pressured into from the players. Well, not usually you don't get pressured, but from the players or just from visually seeing them going and then them falling and landing into the 18-yard box, but it wasn't. The foul took place outside of the 18-yard box and it didn't continue in. So it was good to see him call and have the right positioning, which, of course, you should assume that that is happening because these are professional referees and it is, they're held to a very high standard. So I was happy to see that. And then there wasn't much else during the first half during this game. So yeah, moving on to the second half. During the 68th minute, there was a penalty call. This was the right call. I think he was in a good position and the right position to see this. Kind of breakaway, keeper dove out, got his hands completely wrapped up the foot of the attacker, didn't get any play on ball. Even though he was trying to play the ball, he didn't get a play on the ball. And so, yeah, good call. Led to Man United scoring. And, yeah, I think he was just in the right position for that. He was at the top of the 18-yard box, which this was deep in the 18, very close to the touch line, or the goal line is what it's called. And so, yeah, happy to see that. And there wasn't many complaints, so it was good there. Yeah, I think when I talk about, having that first call or first foul call and having a presence on the game, he had a presence in the game. You knew he was there, and that's what is really good. But he didn't have a presence where it put an impact on the game, and that's kind of what I will always want to try to hit on is you don't, as a referee, you don't want to impact the game. You want to be there, and I always say invisible, and that's like, you're not memorable, and how you become memorable during games is making bad calls, making your own impact by changing the flow of the game from calls, which sometimes have to be made, but sometimes, the reason the flow of the game has changed is because you have made a bad call. And then, and so, yeah, he had his presence in the game, but with his presence, he wasn't making an impact on the game. So I really like that. And then, the 90th +3 minute VAR came in, and it was to decide if it was a possible upgrade to a red card. This was an interesting one. I personally think it possibly could have been a red card. Now, VAR decided no red card, which isn't the end of the world. Totally fine. It just, to me, and I understand why a red card wasn't called. There was no intent. There was no, you know, real force put into the challenge. The only reason why I thought it probably should have been upgraded to a red card was that cleat was studs up. And when I mean that is like if this is the bottom of the cleat and you got your studs, that's the stud. It studs up and it comes in and if this is my knee, comes and grazes the knee of the attacker while he went to challenge for the ball. And it's just something you don't want to see. It could be career ending to game ending to season ending for that player. And so you don't want to see it. And so I thought it possibly could have been upgraded to a red card. Now, if Robert Jones on the field he called the foul and gave a yellow card. But if he gave a straight red card, I don't think VAR would have come in and downgraded that call. In the same way that I think they came in and they looked at it, but they decided it's not that egregious to upgrade to a red card. But if it was called a red card, first off, I don't think it would have been downgraded to a yellow card. I think it would have been, they would have reviewed and be like, okay, I can see why he gave it a red card, or if anything, have a discussion with Robert Jones. But I don't think it would have been downgraded to a yellow card. So I think VAR did fine there. And yeah, overall, I think Robert Jones did a good job. I think Michael Oliver did a good job during the Man City Bournemouth game. And during this Man United Chelsea game, Robert Jones did a good job. It wasn't too much during this game. Again, during that second half, he was using his advantage well. So I really like seeing that. You don't see many referees use advantage that often. And there was never one. And there was, I think, one he started advantage, but clearly there wasn't going to be much to come with it. And so he blew his whistle and brought it back to the foul. So again, that's kind of that quick, like, okay, I want to try to let this play keep playing on, and noticing it's not coming up to anything. So I am going to stop that advantage. All right. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that review of the Man United Chelsea game and Bournemouth versus Man City game. The Man United game refereed by Robert Jones and the Man City game refereed by Michael Oliver during match week 10. Moving on to match week 11, I will be reviewing Man City versus Brighton, which is going to be refereed by Sam Barrett. And then the other game during the weekend that I will be watching will be Liverpool versus Aston Villa on the Saturday as well. And that will be refereed by David Kuti, which I believe I have reviewed one of his games. So I'll look back at things I had noted from the other game that I reviewed of his and see kind of, my thoughts on how he did and how he was as a referee. So yeah, and hopefully you enjoy. I hope that you all have a good weekend watching match week 11, and hope to talk about how the referees did during that week. Mahalo.